Good evening, it's Dre. I want to welcome you to another one of our mindset moments. I hope you having an absolutely perfect day. Today we're going to focus a little bit on mental toughness or mental strength, whichever kind of is the way that resonates more with you. But it's the idea that we have to have this ability to make decisions that are in our long-term favor versus our short-term favor. So when you're talking about that self-control that is needed to make these decisions, there are lots of studies that talk about just how difficult it can be for us to be able to make long-term decisions versus that short instant gratification where we're sacrificing a lot, where we really are making a decision that's totally based on just this short-term satisfaction, and how people who are able to delay gratification, how it often leads to success in other parts of their life because they're able to make decisions that are based over the long term. This is important for you because there are going to be lots of times in your life where you're going to have temptations or distractions where there's something that feels really good in the moment, but you know that it won't be as beneficial later, right? So you can insert any of your favorite desserts if you want to, but it's the idea that I know that this is not good for me, that this is not helping me to accomplish the goal that I have set for myself, yet I have this desire to do it anyways. And when you have self control, when you have that general understanding that even though I want to do it now, I'm going to focus on what truly matters to me. And so when you are working on building your self control, first of all, you got to understand that's a muscle. And like all muscles, you have to build it up. And what I mean by that is don't go to the gym on January 1st and think that you're going to be like bench pressing like 400 pounds. Don't think you're going to be running a marathon even though you haven't even walked a mile, right? There is a buildup to be able to accomplish the goals that we're trying to accomplish. And you'll find that a lot of the times when people set these resolutions, when they set goals, it becomes very difficult for them because the muscle isn't that strong. So they end up going 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, and then after that, they're pretty much done. They rarely make it past a month. And that's why only 8% of people at the end of the year have accomplished whatever resolution they set for themselves. So there's two ways to deal with that. One is you start off slow and ramp up. If you look at it like working out, as the example I had given earlier, let's say if you want to bench press 400 pounds, well, start with just the bar. Maybe that's where you're at. Just start with the bar. What does that look like in your life of self control? Instead of you making it where you are just like muscling through all these temptations, maybe you can set it up for yourself where you're able to not have to use any of your willpower, any of your self control, because the options are not there for you. So if you have a sugary substance, so like donuts or coffee, or maybe watching like different movies, and you want to cut back, you want to be more productive, you want to be healthier, you want to make better decisions because you know long term benefits you. Well, instead of you just saying, okay, I'm not going to eat anymore, okay, I'm not going to watch anymore, maybe you end up removing these objects altogether. Or you set some sort of a timer where it just doesn't work, or you give someone else control of something. Whatever you have to do, you want to give yourself the ability to kind of ease into this. You don't want to just force yourself to use up a muscle that you just don't have the ability to use all day, every day. And studies show that when we do use and drain our self-control and our willpower, that's often why at the end of the day we end up eating lots of sugary foods, where we're eating like a big bag of chips or like some candy or something because our body is depleted all of those decision making faculties. And so often what you end up doing is your body wants to replenish itself in some way. And so you end up wanting those sweets so that it's like a craving. You can't really control it, but when you understand what is going on, then you're able to make plans to keep yourself from even getting to that point. And so when you go to the grocery store, that's why they have that the rack of candies right when you check out, because they know that you have just used a lot of your decision making faculties getting this grocery shopping done. So their hope is that you need that replenishment. So you're going to go ahead and get a piece of candy off the shelf, or you're going to get a piece of gum, or you're going to get a bag of chips. You're going to get something that you wouldn't have gotten if you walked in the beginning and walked by that shelf. But because you're on your way out and you're mentally a little more tired, the assumption is you may want to get it. And they're often right in a lot of those. So you want to make sure that you understand, generally speaking, that there is somewhere that you're at. Let's just say 1 to 10. Let's say 1 is the worst, 10 is the best. We're trying to get to 10. 10 is the ability for us to literally look temptation in the face and say, not for me. Where you have no inkling of a desire to even bend in any way towards that. That you have your long term goals in mind, and the short term is not something that you're very interested in. So when you're trying to get to that 10, you may be a 1, you may be a 5, you may be a 6. And all these numbers mean is that there's going to be a time in your day before the end of the day that you're going to run out and you're going to fall into these old habits, whatever they are for you. So when you are trying to change that, you're trying to overcome that, the best thing I can tell you to do is try to automate some parts of your life. If you only have, let's say, 100 decisions in the day, well, decide the best way to spend your 100. You find lots of studies with like everybody from Zuckerberg to Bill Gates to even like Steve Jobs and just different people, even Barack Obama. And these people, they have like one or two suits. They have one particular outfit where they start automating some of those decisions. And you find a lot of people end up choosing a lot of the same food to eat because they want to automate that decision. They don't want to use up any of their willpower for that. Now, the good news is if you do, right, something for like 3 weeks to a month, it has become a part of your subconscious. And what I mean by that is you are no longer making a conscious decision to do something. It's just a habit that you have built. And so the goal is to fade some of these thoughts into your subconscious so that you're able to focus a little bit more and save some of these willpower choices. Another good way to do this is to bulk a lot of your decision making process in a set amount of time where you're able to make these decisions together and then maybe you can then replenish it. Think of it like working out where I'm going to do heavy lifting and then I'm going to take a break so that I can recharge myself. There's a study that I mentioned in my book where it talks about this judge panel, and basically what happened is they looked over like 1,000 cases and they were able to find that when the judge was most likely to grant parole, it was when the judge was at the beginning of his mental strength. So earlier in the day or right after lunch, because those are the two times that he is full on his mental strength. And what ends up translating is this judge, when he has all of his mental faculties, he's able to deliberate in a way that he's very comfortable granting parole to someone who's up for parole. Now, what ends up happening, and it happens to all of us the same way, when you run out of your mental strength, you revert back to whatever it is your safe place. Whatever it is the old habit that you already have. So safe for you may be watching TV if you're trying to be more productive with your day. Safe for someone else may be eating like different sweets and sugary foods when they're trying to eat healthier. And safe for this judge was to put the criminals back in jail. That was the no-brainer to him. So you find that in the beginning of the day, when he's making his decisions, he's granting parole more often than right before lunch. Right before lunch, it was like a 70% of the time that he just did not grant parole, put him right back in the cell, because he reverts back to the safe place. And then he eats his lunch, he comes back out fully charged, so then from 1 to 2, the same thing happens. There's a higher chance of someone getting granted parole versus if they were from 3 to 4. Because now his mental faculties are draining again, so he reverts back to the safe place. And the safe place for a judge is to leave the criminals locked up. And so when you really understand how systematic your thought process is, it helps it to make it easier for you to use your self-control in a way that helps you to accomplish the goals that you want. So when you're building your muscle, there's a couple ways. There's some fun studies that just say use your non-dominant hand, right? If you're righty, write with your left hand. If you're a lefty, write with your right hand. Doing small things like this helps build your mental faculties because you're making a conscious effort, right? So the way that I would take that is to simply say anything that you can do that helps you to use your conscious mind in a we'll say a stress-free environment, something that's not very difficult where you're draining a lot of it, but you're just using enough of it so that you're able to get the muscle flowing, and then as you let it recover, now it's a little bit stronger. So that could be choosing something different on the meal when you go out to eat, or taking a different route to work or back home, right? Little light decisions that don't have a lot of gravity and impact in your life, but nonetheless, it's strengthening those muscles for you so that when you have the big decision, you now have the strength to be able to kind of make the right one. And what I mean by the right one is you want the ability to see clearly the long term implications of each of your decisions. If it is a short term benefit, then you have to say, is it a long term cost? And if you're able to recognize that, then you're doing better than most people, right? Most people are living their whole life in autopilot. And what I mean by that is they have created habits, some good and some bad. So when they go through their day, the good habits help them and then the bad habits hurt them. You have the ability, and I mean, technically all of us do because we're conscious beings, we have the ability to make changes, to make decisions. We're not like birds where we just fly south for the winter. And if you were to speak bird and say, why are you flying south for the winter? The bird most likely would say, that's just what we do. We just fly south for the winter. It's time to go, so we go. You have the ability to say, you know what, I think I want to fly west today. Now, unfortunately, we don't use our ability very often, where we don't sit there and say, yeah, let's see what it looks like to go a different route today. But I encourage you to do that. These small little changes is going to help you build that strength. And when you can control your self-control, pun intended, then you're able to control and master your overall life. And it's very important for you to be able to do that because the studies often link whenever you have high willpower, high self control, that it often has these friends like determination, inner strength, confidence. All these things are tied to someone's ability to use self control. And if you really think about it, it's not very difficult to understand, right? If you are making good decisions throughout the day, then you feel really good about yourself, so you have a higher confidence. You also naturally, if you're making long-term decisions versus short-term decisions, then it's very likely that you'll be more successful in life. It is not difficult to be able to grasp that if you are the opposite, where you have little self-control, little willpower, then obviously your health would be deteriorating because you're going to be eating unhealthy food, right? Because that is a short-term benefit, but has a long-term cost. You most likely are going to have some suffering within your spiritual life and your relationships because it requires willpower to keep your mouth shut sometimes, just to be completely 100 with you guys, right? It's difficult to not just blur out something because it feels really good to get that jab in the short term, but we're not taking any long-term calculation of what the cost is. So when you really think about the benefits of self-control, it's without a doubt one of the greatest strengths that you have the ability to grow and master. And then as a result, you'll be able to live that Achoja life where you are rising to the challenge as you continue chasing happiness. And that's going to be our mindset moment. I'm always thankful for our time together. If you are enjoying these videos, if you're enjoying the audios, if you're enjoying the articles, all I ask is that you share it, like it, leave a comment, leave a review, any way that you can communicate and let other people know that you're getting value from this. That's really what the goal is. We want to expand and help as many people as we possibly can to live that Achoja lifestyle. Now, if you want your action item for the day, all right, I almost left it off, but I'm sure you guys would have reminded me. All I want you guys to do is to just simply write with your non-dominant hand, maybe 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, just to see what's going on. And if you're thinking, Dre, I don't even write at all, then text with your non-dominant hand. Put your mouse on the non-dominant hand side. Whatever it is that you normally do, I want you to take a moment and use your non-dominant hand to be able to start using some of that inner strength, some of that inner discipline, so that you're able to start building that muscle. And then you're able to use it when you need it most. And that'll do it for us always. And thank you for your time. Continue blessings on your journeys to become the champion of your dream life.